Okay, so we returned from Eretz Yisrael, and this week we have a very special location for this year. We bring you the S.S.S. Parshas Shiur, Nesivos Shalom Shiur. We bring it to you from the world headquarters of Lakewood, Bikur, Cholim. And I must say, before I begin the shiur, as much as sometimes I thought I knew a little bit about what goes on in this organization, I stepped into the headquarters here tonight. We were invited here. As you see, we actually removed some of the more delicious food to the side so we could say the shiur. But it's a beautiful tayameh matzav going on over here. But what's going on over here pales in comparison to what's going on upstairs here right now. And the amount of chesed that's being done upstairs, and the amount of meals that are being prepared by the Nashim Tzidkaniyos and young girls upstairs that are packing meals for hospitals, for people that need the food for Shabbos. It's an unbelievable situation. And it's kedai for everybody to know that this organization is done in a very quiet way, but there's so much being done, and the needs of the community are constantly growing, and they're being met by the unbelievable volunteers and people that run Bikur Cholim of Lakewood. Parshas Mishpatim, Tavshin Ayin Daled, the beginning of the parsha, we speak about the parsha of an eved, somebody who sold for an eved, somebody who becomes an eved. So like we've mentioned many times in the past, there's one way to look at the parsha, and then there's the way that the Nesivos Shalom looks at a parsha. Nesivos Shalom saw a pasuk of Chumash, and he saw things, and he opened up doors in a pasuk of Chumash where the average person, when you're reading Pasuk Pshat in a pasuk, you would never even go in that direction. And it's unbelievable to see, and this is one of those examples. The pasuk says, Ki sikneh eved ivri sheish shanim ya'avoid. An eved ivri works for 6 years. Uvashviis, in the 7th year, yeitzei lachavshi chinam. The eved ivri goes out, and he becomes a free man. But what happens, says the pasuk, V'im omor yomar ha'eved. The eved says, Ohavti es adoini es ishti es bonai. He likes the situation. He likes his master, the family, children. Lo yeitzei chavshi. I do not want to go out. So the pasuk tells us, V'gishoy adoinov el ho'alehim, that we know about the parsha here, where the eved has to have his ear pierced, and that's the parsha of eved ivri. The Nesivos Shalom brings down from Svarim, they explain this pasuk al pi drush, and we look at the entire parsha of avodim here, and it opens up something very unbelievable for us. And the Nesivos Shalom says there are 3 types of avodim, but where there are 3 types of avodim in avodas Hashem. The first eved is, like we say here in the parsha, the first eved is an eved ivri. The second one is an eved Kanani, and that's another type of eved. And the third one is one who we know the Gemara speaks about, in the Chatzi eved v'chatzi ben chayrin. One who is half an eved and half a free man. So what is an eved ivri? An eved ivri, says in Nesivos Shalom, is, like the Gemara Masechta Kedushin, Daf Tezvov Amud Aleph says, is somebody who is oived bein bayoim uvein baloila. Somebody who is a 24-hour eved. He works during the day, and he works during the night. And this is the first type of Oved Hashem. This is the first type of Yid. A person who does not pick and choose. I once heard a very good line. Somebody once said that Judaism is not a salad bar. Judaism is what it is. There's a Torah, and the Torah sets aside rules for our life. And we don't have the option of picking out the times when it's easy, picking out the things we think that are good for us. So the first type of eved is one who is oved HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even when it's not so easy. In all the different times, a person stands pat in their avodah, even when it seems that it's dark, even when it seems that it's nighttime, like the Gemara says, he's oived bein bayoim uvein baloila. Baloila could mean that times in a person's life when it's difficult. People go through things, and they think that sometimes you find that it's difficult to be oived Hashem. It's difficult to trust in Hashem. An Eved Ivri, a person who's a real Eved of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even during those times, the times of darkness, he is being Eved HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Pasuk says, Sheish Shanim Yavoid. A person like this, Sheish Shanim, and the Nesivos Shalom says that these Sheish Shanim, these 6 units here are referring to the 6 days of the week. 6 days of the week, a person is Eved HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's Eved him like an Eved. And you're not looking for any recognition. You're not looking for any reward. Yet you continue to be Oved HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avodas Hashem, no matter what. If a person does this, the Pasuk says, Uvashvi'is yeitzei lachav shichinam. And that refers to Shabbos Kodesh. On Shabbos, a person is zoiche to remove all the inyanim of Olam Hazeh. And this is your reward for serving Hashem 6 days a week, even when it's difficult for you. The reward is that a person who serves Hashem, even when it's hard during the week, it's that on Shabbos, you're zoiche to feel close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's your reward. The Pasuk says in Devarim, Perek Chav Daled, we know when we speak about paying a person, when you pay an employee, so the Pasuk says, B'yoymoi titein s'charoi. On the day when you're supposed to pay the person, that is when you have to give him the schar. The Rashi Tevis of these words says, the Nesivos Shalom, B'yoymoi titein s'charoi is Shabbos. That on that day, B'yoymoi, on that day of Shabbos, on that day, right after you finish your 6 days of work, now Kadosh Baruch Hu is the one who's employing you. B'yoymoi, right there on that day, titein s'charoi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you the reward that now you're able to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem pays you, and that's something that every person should remember. It's something that's very good to know. The next type of Eved is an Eved who's an Eved Kanani. One whose life, what is Kanani? Kanani refers to, says in Nesivos Shalom, it's referring to a person who's under the influence of the Yetzer Hara. And what the Pasuk refers to it, a person who's busy with Maaseh Eretz Canaan. An Eved, and we know, how does an Eved Kanani go out? How do you release yourself from this matzav of Eved Kanani? An Eved Kanani goes out b'shein v'ayin. If he loses a tooth or an eye, so the Mefarshim say, then what does Shein v'ayin mean over here? How does a person who's busy with his taivas go out? It's talking about Shein refers to the taiva of achila, which is a big taiva in a person. And of course, we're going to have a good achila here. Our taiva for achila is after we have a good shiur. There's a beautiful, amazing stuff here for everybody to eat, but that's not the taiva of achila we're discussing here. And the second taiva is a taiva of ayin. Like the Gemara says, that, and it's brought down in many Sifrei Musar, that what happens? The beginning of a taiva is a person's ayin. This person's ayin sees, and then the leiv is chaymed, the leiv wants, and the limbs of a person carry that out. And that's how it is by an Eved Kanani, a person who's busy with that. So how does an Eved Kanani go out? We know an Eved Kanani goes out by breaking these taivas. And finally, the third type of an Eved is as a person who is a Chatzi Eved v'Chatzi Ben Chayrin. And the Nesivos Shalom says that every person really has to look at himself that he's that type of person. A person can never rest and think, that's it. No matter what age you are, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 80, it doesn't matter. A person can never think that he has completed the battle with his Yetzer Hara. A person cannot ever think that the battle is over. You have to always look at yourself that you're a Chatzi Eved v'Chatzi Ben Chayrin. That you're standing right there on the precipice, you're standing right there on the edge, and if you do one good thing, you go over to this side, and if you do something negative, you go over to the other side. You can never think that you are done with your battle with the Yetzer Hara. The job of a person being mitayr himself is never over. And of course, Nesivos Shalom says that it's very relevant during these weeks. We're now near the end of the weeks of Shovavim, but since we are in a Shana Mu'beres, we're having an extra month this year, so it's Shovavim Tat and Parshas Truma Tetzaver. No? It's very, very important and incumbent on us, and it's a minig in Klal Yisrael, that during these weeks of Shovavim, we work on these type of inyanim. And on Shabbos, says in the Nesivos Shalom, is when we have this capacity to reconnect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to bring all of our chukas and all of our wants to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this frees a person from the Chetzioi Eved that he is. You want to be a complete free person, you want to be that type of person, this is the time to work on it, especially when it comes to Shabbos. But what is the key? The key is that a person has to be willing and understand that you have to be willing to work. And anybody will tell you that the first job you want, the first thing you want, if you have an employee, you have a volunteer for Bikur Cholim, you have somebody that you want to do something for you, the first thing you have to look at a person, is this person willing to do the job? Is he willing to work? After that, there's a lot of other requirements, requisites, different things. But if he's missing that thing that he wants to work and he wants to do, then he's not going anyplace. And the Nesivos Shalom says that's what it is. When it's a Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Ben Chara, you want to work, in order to be Zoichet, to the reward that you get on Shabbos, you have to be willing to work during the week. Just want to end off with something that we actually, I think, mentioned a few years ago. I want to elaborate just a minute or two on it. A very, very beautiful word and something we could take with us. The Pasuk says, closer to the end of the Parsha, V'avadetem es Hashem Elokeichem, you should worship and serve. You should serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Pasuk says, Uveirach es lachmacha v'es meimecha. You're going to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bless es lachmacha v'es meimecha. And the end of the Pasuk, V'asiroisi machala mikirbecha. A very appropriate Pasuk. And I thought of saying this now that we're saying it in a Bikur Cholim. We're saying it in people that unfortunately have to deal with so many of the problems and of Cholim and Lakewood. The Pasuk says here a key. How are we going to do it? If you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take away sickness from your midst. Last week's Parsha, the Parsha said, the Torah tells us, Kol HaMachala asher samti v'Mitzrayim, any sickness that I put in Mitzrayim, Loi osim olecha, I will not put on you, ki ani Hashem roifecha. Again, we discuss about the machala, the sicknesses of Mitzrayim. Let me ask you a question. We know that in Mitzrayim there were makas. There were a lot of makas in Mitzrayim. 10 makas. They suffered terribly from the makas. Where do we see in the Torah anything about sickness in Mitzrayim? The pasuk says, "Kol hamachala shesamti v'Mitzrayim le'asim alecha." And over here in this week's parsha, "V'asiroisi machala mikirbecha." Where was this sickness in Mitzrayim? The Torah doesn't mention anything about sickness. Nesivos Shalom says a beautiful word. You know what the sickness of Mitzrayim was? The sickness of Mitzrayim was ki ani hichbadeti es liboy. That was the sickness of Mitzrayim. That Mitzrayim, they saw the makas, they saw everything from Moshe and Aaron going on right in front of their eyes, and they ignored it. They didn't do anything about it. And that is sickness, says in Nesivos Shalom. A person that's not looking, a person that is not seeing the signs and the things that are going on around him, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sending him. So whatever happens to a person in life, you need to think. Things don't just happen to people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends messages your way, but you have to be awake. You have to have your eyes open. And that was the sickness of Mitzrayim. That was the sickness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, if you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you begin to realize that everything that's happening in your life, sometimes it's rough, and sometimes the tough things go on in a person's life. Sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes people are faced with illness. They're faced with challenges. But everything is sent by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Pasuk tells us, V'avadetem es Hashem Elokeichem. You'll serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then you'll come to the realization that everything is happening from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'asiroisi machala mikirbecha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will take away that sickness from you. You're going to realize that everything that's going on is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then you're going to develop that close relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the lesson that we can learn over here. That when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says He's going to remove sickness, it's that sickness of not realizing that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's take a hope that this wonderful organization, that they won't have as much work to do as they do now. They should be busy supplying food for simchas. And I want to thank everybody here, Bikur of Lakewood, for hosting the shiur this week.